Welcome back, everyone. Today, Alex and I are diving into compensation and specifically the mindset around it for our candidates. Alex, I'm curious, what's the approach that you've adopted and how has it evolved with our clients?
Tyler, in the past, what we've done before we had the experience that we've had over the last 3 or 4 years, systematically doing our recruiting projects, the first step in our process, or one of the early steps in our process, would be to do a compensation study. That is, we would go to a tool like salary.com, or there's literally dozens of them. We would look at the compensation that's reported by other companies in terms of like industry specific reporting. So we would use national reports that were industry specific. We would use broad market tools to look at compensation in order to figure out what would somebody with a product that looks approximately like the person that we're hiring for this role, what should we expect to pay for them? What's the market paying? But that leaves us with an incomplete picture. And I think I've got a couple of reasons why that is.
Interesting. So, relying solely on those market tools for compensation studies left us with an incomplete picture. Alex, what are the reasons behind that?
Well, I think the first one is that people game those studies. There are, for example, when it comes to like industry specific reports where they might study 1,000 different companies. Often the reports on compensation are not like audited numbers. These are just self-reported numbers. And if at all publicly available, then the companies want to be able to demonstrate, like they want to look favorably once they've reported these numbers. So they want to look strong. They have different agendas than just reporting the facts. So I think if any of us have ever kind of fibbed on a survey or fibbed in a story, we can understand that sometimes we don't tell all the truth. So we can extrapolate that, I think, pretty safely to understanding that maybe we shouldn't rely 100% on these reports for accuracy.
Got it. So one of the main issues is that these compensation studies can be gamed. Companies might self-report inflated numbers to look more attractive or strong, which means the data isn't always accurate or reliable. What's another reason that relying solely on these studies leaves us with an incomplete picture?
I think the other one is that they're lagging indicators. And maybe lagging indicators isn't quite the right term, but they're historical data. They don't take into account the quick changes that can happen in terms of the time period that's elapsed. In the post-COVID world, we saw from 2019 to 2024 sharp fluctuations in labor demand and the corresponding pressures on wages in terms of changing wages. So what I'm advocating for here is that you're taking into consideration what wages have looked like, but we don't want to make them prescriptive, saying that we've studied what we think other people are paying, therefore we're willing to pay this. It paints an incomplete picture based on, I think, an incomplete data set, as well as it's missing a really important perspective, which is the why are we even going to market?
I see. So the second issue is that these studies provide historical data, which doesn't account for the rapid changes in labor demand and wage pressures, especially noticeable in the post-COVID world. So while these studies can offer a reference point, they shouldn't be the sole basis for determining compensation because they miss the current context and the strategic reasons for going to market. Given these limitations, Alex, what approach do you advocate for instead when it comes to thinking about compensation for candidates?
Let's come into the approach that we recommend, is I think it ties directly into the why are we going to the market. I think most often we're going to market with roles that we believe will, at the end of the day, drive either money to the top line or to the bottom line. Essentially, we're hiring these folks because we want to make more money. And I think that taking into consideration our business model and our financial tools to assess, not just so that we can add a layer of context, a layer of information that is going to be relevant in our negotiation, it would be just like, how much can we actually pay this person and still be making money? We might go to market with the opportunity a little bit above what other people are paying. But what we might find when we do that study is that our absolute top end is potentially would make for a very attractive offer for very skilled talent, for these folks that might bring a lot of value to us. How could you see tying all that together?
I see. So your approach recommends considering the primary reason for going to market, which often boils down to roles that will drive revenue or profitability by integrating our business model and financial tools. We can assess how much we can actually pay candidate while still maintaining profitability. This in turn allows us to potentially offer more competitive compensation than the market average, attracting highly skilled talent who can bring significant value. I think it ties together quite well. Essentially, instead of relying solely on external compensation data, we use it as a reference point, but we also factor in our specific business context and financial capabilities to make informed and strategic compensation decisions. This approach allows us to stay competitive and attract top talent without compromising our financial health. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this approach or any additional nuances we should consider?
I think there's probably just two pieces of this, one of which you hit on. It also informs, so to speak, the bait that you can go to market with. You can make your offer even more attractive to potential candidates in terms of how you're advertising. But then the second piece is it also gives you room for negotiation. I advocate that discussions about money should really take part right away at the beginning, asking the candidate what they're looking for, get a ballpark of where they want to be in order to make a move. And then if they're near that ballpark, let's get them into the process to start talking about how they can deliver value for the company. And once we've established what value that they can drive for the company, then and only then we can determine what kind of value we can provide back to that candidate. So let me speak in plain, simple English. By establishing what our financial constraints are on compensation, it enables us to establish a top-end range on comp that will likely be different than what your market reports are paying. My recommendation or my experience has been that we should be making decisions on moving candidates into our pipeline that are within not the compensation range that the market reporting is telling us, but rather the compensation range that we could compensate this candidate at and still make money.
So to summarize, one, using compensation data wisely, while market compensation studies provide a reference, they shouldn't be the sole basis for decisions due to potential inaccuracies and the historical nature of the data. Two, business focus approach and integrate our business model and financial tools to determine how much we can afford to pay a candidate while maintaining profitability. So this helps us make competitive offers that attract top talent. Three, informative offers. By understanding our financial limits, we can craft offers that may be more attractive to candidates and position ourselves better in the market. Four, early money discussions. Start compensation conversations early with candidates to ensure their expectations align with what we can afford. If they're within our range, move them into the process to discuss how they can deliver value. Five, value-based negotiation. Once we understand the candidate's potential value to the company, we can then finalize the compensation that reflects that value within our financial constraints. Essentially, focus on what we can pay while still making a profit. Use that to guide early negotiations and ensure our offers are both competitive and sustainable. How's that sound?
That sounds great. Let's wrap it up there.
Perfect. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Today, we explored a more strategic and business-focused approach to compensation for candidates. Remember, it's about balancing market data with your business context to attract top talent while maintaining profitability. Until next time.